All right, we are live. Hey, what's up, everybody? Mr. Dan here. Today, I'm joined by Kenny from Kenny's Movie Palace and
Hello.
Patrick from Have Cheetah Will View. And we're going to talk about one of the greatest, most famous TV shows in U.S. history, something that I just got into about a year ago. I have half of season 1 here, and then I started to pick up on the streaming after that, which was frustrating because on Plex or Pluto, they mislabel a lot of the episodes, so it will actually drive you nuts trying to go in sequence. But The Fugitive, of course, starring David Janssen. We're going to be talking about episode 1, Fear. I'm not going to remember the title.
Desert.
Fear in
the desert. In the desert. Fear in the desert. Yeah. Yeah. So let me throw this up. That helps. Fear in a Desert City. Okay. Special guest stars Brian Keith and Vera Miles. Also starring Barney Phillips, recognizable actor from Twilight Zone, many other shows. And Dabbs Greer is uncredited, but he's one of the police officers. You see a lot of these guys, these actors on like multiple, this show, Rawhide, The Rifleman, they'll have some of the same people come back 5, 6 times, sometimes more as different characters. And Dabbs Greer is one of them. He was, of course, he was old Tom Hanks in The Green Mile, in the retirement home.
That's right.
Yeah, that was right before he passed away. But boy, in the westerns, usually he plays like the biggest sad sack. And his show,
a lot of times for the they're in the 50s. We saw those guys all the time was because that's when Hollywood had the old contract system. Yep. So they would be under contract, and then they would just hey, we need a bad guy of the week. Okay, grab Dabbs. We're gonna do a Settlers or something. Okay, grab Dabbs. Grab Dabbs or something like that.
Yeah. John Anderson, Richard Anderson, Claude Akins. And I love it. Like, you have an episode with Claude Akins, and then he's back like 2 episodes later. He's a very recognizable guy. Some guys are like chameleons, but I think that's funny when they're playing different characters, like within a few episodes of each other.
Yeah. I used to watch a show called Lawman, and they had a gentleman there named Mike Road who used to do a lot of the animation for Hanna-Barbera. But he popped up like 3 times within like 7 shows. But the last one though, you couldn't even recognize him. I was thinking, man, they must have had a really slow week that week or something, because they kept on using him over and over within in the order of the shows. I always wonder what would that have been like. Like, you go to work, okay, we get a new show, and you look up there and there's the same guy you just got done killing three weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. Who was it? John Danaher. He was usually a villain, great voice, but he usually pretty much looked the same, and you were going to get like mostly the same kind of role, but every once in a while it would be a little bit different. It would be a surprise. But John Anderson on The Rifleman, he's like a chameleon. He looks like one episode he's got these giant thick glasses. I always get a kick out of that.
How about when he was a mountain man and he got attacked by the bear?
Yeah. Yeah. So for some of these guys, it was like, how old are you? They look like there's, some of these guys may have been like their late 30s, but they're made up like old men. And then you're seeing them in movies like 25 years after that, and they're still old men.
Oh gosh, yes. John Denier and John Anderson, they were still making TV series all the way up until the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, well, John Anderson was in Star Trek Next Generation. Yeah. And John Danaher, I watched Boys from Brazil on that channel, Newcastle After Dark channel, Kenny, that the same channel that had Cash on Demand. He was he was pretty old in that, but he still had that great voice and everything. Now, remember that movie, speaking of Brian Keith, you had mentioned you'd seen that movie on Tubi, The Lineup, Kenny, with Eli Wallach.
Eli Wallach, yes.
Yeah, the other guy that was with him, the bald guy, that's Brian Keith's father, Robert Keith.
No kidding.
Yeah, they don't look anything alike.
No, they don't.
No, not at all. I was pretty stunned by that. I was surprised by that.
Wow.
But yeah. But anyway, let's get into. I'm going to throw everyone a curveball here. They had some sort of breaking news. I don't, outside of real aficionados of 60s television, I don't know if anybody really noticed, but apparently the writer, producer, director Akiva Goldsman, and I think it's Legendary, have acquired the rights to some of the old Irwin Allen properties.
Oh, wow.
So they've already done, and Akiva Goldsman, I think he produced the Lost in Space movie, and of course Netflix just did the Lost in Space series, but they've acquired the rights to Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Land of the Giants, and Time Tunnel, and they're actually going to make a shared universe where those shows are all interconnected.
So
I think a very underrated show was Time Tunnel. Because when I had MeTV, when I lived in South Jersey, I always, that Saturday night lineup, I really enjoyed that Time Tunnel. That's but you know what? They have to get two good leads for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Patrick.
I was gonna say, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he part of that Dark Universe mess too? Did he? I could have sworn he was one of the names involved in that.
I think he may have been involved in The Mummy, because the article I read, they went out of their way to say, hey, this guy's had some hits and he's had some misses. He's been involved in some of the Star Trek shows as a showrunner. I forget. There's one. Oh, they mentioned one film that did really well, critically acclaimed, but I can't recall what it was. And I think he was a producer on I Am Legend too, which they had sort of in the bad category. I thought that. I think I Am Legend.
I Am Legend.
It's pretty good. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it, but so I don't know. What do you guys think? This could be really, really fun, but it's like Kenny said, they have to update the characters. They've got to update a lot, but I like the idea of, since we're talking about sci-fi shows, I mean, it'll be interesting how they link them together.
Yeah, the tech is there to do it.
Yeah.
The tech.
You know what I hope they do, rather than going forward, going back. Because there was a show about 5 or 6 years ago called Timeless. That was I loved the show, and they were just basically, you learned a history lesson, sort of like Young Indiana Jones when that was on. You learned a history lesson through, the people there.
Mm-hmm.
They had a time machine. If you haven't seen that, Dan, I think it's on the Peacock.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have that at the moment, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it ran for one season, was canceled after one season, and then NBC got deluged by fans and stuff, and they brought it back for another season for 8 episodes, and they to wrap up all the storylines.
Yeah,
like they brought like Jack the Ripper back, like he handicapped he went into the time machine, and he came back and started a killing spree on Earth now.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool, how they did that stuff. But yeah, Russell liked watch Timeless too. But I wonder if they did. You only said those 3, so Towering Inferno.
They're not going to do the movies again, are
they? No, they're just going to do like TV shows, but they are going to try to link them together. I mean, you got Time Tunnel. They're going through time, and I think in Land of the Giants there was some kind of a portal or something too. And then you got futuristic submarine, which I never saw Sequest, but I know they've also done that. So well, that's not recently now, is it?
Yeah, years ago, Dan.
You know why? Because I always was kind of curious about it, but I never watched it. So in my mind, it's like still it's out there to watch. But I know that was a long time ago now. Yeah.
That was a fun show. They had to give up on it too soon because it was so expensive to make. They were losing money hand over fist. It wasn't because they weren't unhappy. I mean, the ratings were actually pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
And and they had Spielberg behind it too. He wanted to bring it to the screens. And but even his name and cachet only could I think the show is costing between $1 to $2 million to make.
Yeah.
Using stories and took a bath with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Back then, when you got up to like $1 million an episode, I mean, it was those shows were almost really hard to maintain. And we do have some comments here. I just switched over the comments. At least I'm able to do that today. The other day I couldn't do it. Russell saying, "What's up, everybody? Smash the like button. Thanks." Corey from Wilkie's Movies and Music is saying, "Hey, all."
Hey, Corey.
Awesome. Glad you guys can join us. Yeah, so let's get to The Fugitive, episode 1. Obviously, growing up, everybody, I had heard about this even before the movie came out. I saw the movie in the theater. Of course, watching the series, and I think I'm on, what am I on? Season 4 now. But to see the little bits, obviously they have the general concept, but then there's a few episodes that they really borrowed from, like some of those hospital scenes. There's one episode where he's in a hospital, and of course he's a doctor, and he sees something, and should he act or not? If he acts, he can give himself away. That's made it into the movie. So I finally just said, you know what? I'm curious. I'm going to start watching The Fugitive. Well, Hamilton book, not a sponsor, thank goodness. You start shopping, you see stuff like this, and for the price, and it was like I was saying, maybe it would have been better off to get the whole season, but it's not very expensive at all to get a season or half of a season, or like I have with Cheyenne, they just had 3 random episodes. So, I got that just to see what it was like and to see if I would like it. But what is your history with like the show? When did you first start watching it?
Well, go ahead, Kitty.
Oh, okay. I was this used to run on at Nick at Night when I got home. I used to be a chef, and like at 2:00 in the morning, you got like they ran like The Fugitive. They had a couple other ones, and then it was like Car 54, Bewitched, all that stuff. And I started watching it then. And then when MeTV got it, I'd say about 5 or 6 years ago, me and my mom would. There was 3 nighttime, like 60s, 70s shows. It was The Fugitive, Mannix, and Cannon. And all 3 of them we would DVR. I would DVR them, and we would just watch them the next day. And fortunately for MeTV, thank God, they were running The Fugitive in order. So it was just like, you just like back to back to back. And Mom said, I remember watching it, but I just watched it sporadically, because of work and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But now it's pretty interesting to watch it. So we watched the whole series. They ran the whole series through. And MeTV even did a really cool thing where they had like a night where they just ran like even the commercials from the last episodes. Mm-hmm. And just like that whole, like that 2 hours was just basically spent with The Fugitive. Oh, so cool. I was really, really excited. And one of the first series that I bought was The Fugitive. I bought it on DVD. So it's top 5 series of all time for me.
Okay, cool.
I actually love it. So when you asked me to do it, I was like, yes.
That's awesome.
Well, I actually knew David Janssen before I watched him on The Fugitive. I've been a fan of his since he did a show called O'Hara. He did and then he also did I think he did O'Hara, where it's a private eye, and then he did another one where he was a treasury agent. So I watched those 2 short run series, and then also he's in the Green Berets. And then when I got older, then I started reading about who he was and what he did, and he did the Fugitive. But I never watched The Fugitive not until the early '90s that I really have any, and even then it was on independent TV, and it was just like you're at the mercy of whatever show they showed.
Yeah.
As far as the TV series you held up there, that's something that when they first started releasing DVDs, especially TV series, that's a lot of things the studios would do was cut them in half. Like split them like volume 1 and volume 2. That really was nothing but a money grab.
Yeah, because I got to the end of this, and I got all the way to the end, and then I was like, oh wait, it's a half a season. Well, I was really getting into it, like one or two a day, and then I had to switch over to Pluto, and then eventually I started to get frustrated, and of course I put myself on this budget this year, so I'm not going to be buying the whole series until next year if I do it, which to be honest, I probably will. But and let's see. Russell said, "Yeah, Sequest was amazing." Stacy's here. Acres of Movies. Did you see the Fugitive with Tim Daly? I didn't know that they redid it.
Yeah, in the late '90s they did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was actually a pretty good, decent series.
Yeah. When did the movie came out in what, 90s, right?
93.
Yeah,
93. Wow. I would have said like late 90s. Wow. Yeah.
32 years, Dan.
Yeah, I think it came out in 93, and U.S. Marshals came out in like 96 or 97.
Right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
But the concept had been around for a while. After the original one, obviously beforehand. I mean, the concept basically is Los Miserables.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And so, but they've done several shows, including one very famous show that did it, and that was The Incredible Hulk.
I was just going to say the Hulk. Yep. Really kind of reminded. That's what I started thinking of when I started to watch the episodes. Made me think of the Hulk. He's got it, and in both cases, you've got a guy who's like overeducated, right? But he's got to take menial jobs. And there's a great Gerard. He's such a great character.
Yeah.
And really like laid a great basis for Tommy Lee Jones to put his own spin on it. But there's one episode where he kind of breaks it down. He's like, he comes into town. He has to take whatever he can get. But he's overeducated. He uses words that other people don't, if he's a garbage collector, he talks differently than everyone else. And there's only a matter of time before something happens and he's got to move on. And, it was pretty clever the way he was sort of like, he created like a profile of this guy, like going from town to town. It's pretty smart. But yeah, the Hulk was kind of like the same way. Like every episode, he's making new friends and getting into hijinks and so forth. Yeah. So anyway, this episode opens. I like the way that they just got right to it. Actually, let's talk about the iconic opening. I think it's probably one of the great opening.
A Quinn Martin production.
Right. Yeah. The voice. And of course, if I'm going to get it right this time, I'm not going to say Robert Conrad. The great William Conrad, the voiceover is perfect. And even the other guy that goes, "The Fugitive," But then they have that great opening, and I think they changed it a little bit, but fate moves its heavy hand. The train derails. I just think it's great. Now, I've seen people say on IMDb under goofs, they're like, you could tell it's a model train. No shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to go down and say, "Hey, let's derail a train for Hollywood."
Well, funny is we have William Conrad. He did the voices for everything, right? He did the voices for everything. And he also played I put down on here for like how this is the connection between William Conrad or the Fugitive and Have Cheetah Will View or Have Gun Will Travel. Is that William Conrad played the very first person that Paladin went after.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and William Conrad also was the original choice. He played Matt Dillon in the radio show Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
Oh, if you haven't listened to those radio shows, they're amazing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he battled his weight throughout his career, and so they said, "Well, you have a voice for radio, but you don't need it in the body too."
Yeah.
And so he couldn't get the parts, but he did all the narration.
Yeah.
And, I always thought that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I know this is a Quinn Martin show. Eventually, in the 70s, they had an anthology series. I think it lasted for a season. Might be Tales from the Unexpected. There's one from the UK with the exact same title, but that voiceover intro on that show is really good. And I remember, of course, him being roasted by Don Rickles. I forget if it was him he compared to the Goodyear blimp, but he zeroed right in on it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just brutal. But I do think it's funny after I started to watch, because every time I would watch the episode, I would watch the intro. I do think it's a little funny when the train starts to wiggle a little bit. Gerard's reaction is almost a little humorous because the way he goes like this. If you watch it out of context, it's a little funny. Like it's a little bit too much. But great intro, and then the episode really gets right to it. I mean,
yeah,
we don't see him going through some long process of trying to get a job. He's got the job. The guy's saying, "Oh yeah, grab an apron over there and go introduce yourself." And
before we get to that, Dan, I want to bring up one thing, and I don't know. I'd love to know if they had this like in the script or not. But like during the interlude, when he walks into the hotel room, and you hear William Conrad going, "It's just another ordinary day," and like Janssen like looks into the mirror, and he starts pulling out like his hair dye.
Right.
And like all that stuff. And, just another day for Dr. Richard Kimball. And I just thought, is like somebody feeding him that stuff, like as he's going through and putting the stuff down. And then when he gets the papers, he's like looking through the paper. I just thought like the narration along with that was just fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome because it told like so much story in like the opening minute or two, Yeah,
and you didn't need 15 minutes of backstory just with that first 2 or 3 minutes right there. You got the backstory, you know who the man is, let's go.
You get into even before you know all the details of the case and everything and who Gerard is, that being a fugitive is pretty rough stuff, pretty tiring. But then, he gets the job, and then right away, he sees Vera Miles playing the piano. She doesn't look thrilled. He almost immediately locks eyes with Brian Keith, and I thought, a lot of times the first episode will have a really good guest star. The first episode of The Rifleman has, I think, Dennis Hopper, young Dennis Hopper, of course, really good.
Yep.
Yeah, and boy, he was like really. He really came across as a stalker in this. I mean, that's what a stalker is. He played it perfect.
He was so good because most if you think about Brian Keith, for the most part, he's always played the good guy. McCormick, Hardcastle McCormick. Of course, he had on The Family Man and one of the first TV shows that showed like a single father and Family Affair. And a ton of other TV shows where he appeared in, where he was a good guy.
So
you know him from that. Every time I kept on looking at him, I'm like, hey, that's Doris Day's husband from 6 You Get Egg Roll. Yeah. That's the first thing I thought of, and I'm like, man, he's really creepy as hell. Just like that smile.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, but he's like he kind of like an Ernest Borgnine thing, where like he'll be like a big teddy bear in some movies, but when he plays a villain, like he's a villain. That's the way I
have a Bad Day at Black Rock when he plays Spencer Tracy.
Right.
It's like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
But he's like it's one or the other. Like some actors you can't really forget. If they're a good guy, it's hard to picture them as a bad guy. But then you got Ernest Borgnine looks like Ernest Borgnine, and Brian Keith looks like Brian Keith. You know what I mean? Like
another thing about that was the lighting. When you got Vera Miles playing the piano, it was all bright. When you got to Keith, it was dark, and it was even tilted dark with the cowboy hat he had on. And
his eyes were like this too. Yeah.
Vera Miles was I mean, she was stunning back then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's basically he comes in, he's rude, and then he finds out the backstory. Eventually, he has to escort the Vera Miles character home, and
first he has to take care of business with when he comes out and sees seeing Brian Keith slapping around.
Oh yeah, that's right away, right? Yeah,
He goes over there, splits his lip.
Yep. Yep. Then he takes her home, meets her son. Pretty good job from the actor that played her son. Sometimes if the child actors aren't good, it's a little distracting, but he was pretty good. Eventually, on one of the episodes, I know they have a very young, even younger than like on Star Trek, Clint Howard. He's like,
wow,
okay. Yeah, I think he's like 4. I mean, he's like,
wow,
he's like a baby almost.
I think Kurt Russell was 12. I think he was 12.
Yeah, Kurt Russell's in one because Bing Russell was in like 5 episodes, and there's one where Bing and Kurt play father and son. Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah. But so he basically tries to comfort her. Eventually, he kind of admits that he can't go to the police. And then in the meantime, and if I'm going out of order, you guys can jump in here. But then he kind of gets picked up, or he's dropping her off. He's going to drop her off, and then these 2 creepy cops send her home. That
was beyond creepy.
And give him a ride. And then we find out that the Brian Keith character is, he's loaded. He's got plenty of land. He donates to all these charities. He might run the political office. So then you're kind of like, how are these cops creepy? Are they?
You're gonna take me out for a ride in the desert, and I'm not coming back.
Are they dirty? Yeah, and then like with Dabbs, the other guy did most of the talking, but Dabbs Greer would like interject, and it was like, and then they wormed their way into his apartment, and what do they find? It's
the
hair dye and all those newspapers. Yeah,
you read a lot, Mr. Lincoln.
But he thought he was thinking on his feet though. He was like, well, I was looking for jobs, and because he's a smart guy, for sure. But it's just crazy how I guess back then, despite the fact that there are wanted posters around, it
was weird though. If you go back to the 2 cops, if you really think about their whole actions, they were doing him, Brian Keith, like a favor almost. Yeah. Like, okay. But it was almost like, okay, we'll go ahead and take a look at what you're saying, because back then, I mean, you could actually be arrested for adultery. Adultery was illegal, and so if you were going out there trying to mess up a marriage, you could actually be charged with a crime for that.
Yeah.
But you saw when they picked him up, they didn't rough him up, not all. They didn't rough him up. They really didn't talk down to him. They were just asking him questions like regular detectives, and so they didn't rough him up like you expected. Billy Sapp in the back of the head, blackjack back of the head, and then when Brian Keith walked in there into the office, he says, he implied that he was going to take care of him, and the lead cop looked at him and said, I'm not taking bribery from you. I'm just, as far as he was concerned, he was just doing his job. He's
right. Yeah, he got offended by it. He got kind of offended. They started to bump heads a little bit. Yeah. That was pretty good. So yeah, you didn't really know like how where these cops were coming from, but like you said, back then they can get up in your business when it came to stuff like that. But we have Mike in the chat. Did you see that? Hey, Mike. Hey, I'm curious. Mike's in the UK. I'm curious if the show The Fugitive ever ran on TV in the UK. So please let me know if you've seen it or if it's been on TV over there.
I can help you with that if Mike needs it, but yeah. I don't know. I don't know. In the old, before we were talking about TV and everything, like back in this, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, probably to the late 80s, we had a lot of independent stations. And so every once in a while, they would actually run out shows like The Fugitive, a lot of independent stations because it was cheap. It was cheap entertainment. You could, and so, that's why they said he had 100 episodes, you could run it on syndication and get paid for it. And, but it seemed like as soon as those independent stations disappeared, so did these shows. These shows all disappeared for so long until now you get like Me TV or the one that Kenny watches. Yeah. I mean, then you're starting to see them come back to a whole new generation.
Yeah, or you hope that they get put out on DVD or something, But speaking of TV, the funny thing is, as far as UK shows for here in the States, a lot of those ended up on the public television stations.
Dan, I was just going to say that because like in the 90s, Channel 12 and Channel 23, they used to show the first real, other than Benny Hill, that was on Channel 29 at like 11:30 at night. The only real PBS show that we had were Keeping Up Appearances with Hyacinth and Richard.
Yeah,
and that was just on recent, like, well, I'll say 30 years ago. but it was like, it wasn't until like the late 90s, early 2000s where they ran them Monday through Friday at 7:30.
Right.
We used to watch them.
Yeah. We also had, my parents got into Are You Being Served too. And we had friends from the UK and they were like, oh, you like that show? Because I guess to them, they thought it was like on a Three's Company level, like not sophisticated. And then I remember even once going down to the shore for vacation, and down at the shore, they had a different public television station, and they had like a show called Robin's Nest on. And my dad was so into like British shows. So we had to, my mom was like, are we going to the beach or not? So we would get home and watch that every night. But yeah, it's weird.
I think the first English show I ever watched was The Avengers.
Okay. See, I remember seeing that in the TV guide and turning it on and thinking to myself, oh, it's not actually the Avengers. Like, because I was so young,
Right.
You know what I mean by the Avengers, right? I thought
we thought it was the superhero.
Yeah, we thought it was like superheroes or something,
No, I used to watch oh my gosh, it was so cool. Everybody come out there and see, for most of us young boys, that's the first time we ever saw a girl in a cat suit. It was like, holy crow.
Mm-hmm.
Diana Rigg back in the day was something else.
Yes, she was. She sure was. Yep. But okay, anyway, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah.
So he eventually, he kind of hesitantly starts to get a little more involved. He spends the day with her at like an amusement park, and that was a really good scene because Brian Keith shows up. And I like the way the boy was like, he's like making small talk with him, and he's not real good at it. He doesn't have the background. And the kid's like, hey, I know you want to go talk to my mom. I'm just going to go play baseball. Go ahead. And that was pretty cool. But I'm pretty sure in the background, when the kid was in the batting cages, Brian Keith was in the background.
He was in the corner.
Yeah, because you saw that silhouette with the cowboy hat and everything.
Yeah.
That was really pretty menacing. And this is a really good first episode. I'm glad that nobody messed with it and because they did things like that with shows like Star Trek, where the first episode was going to be something different, but they were like, no, the first episode has to have a monster, so they switched them. There's not a lot of action in this, but it's such a good episode. So I'm glad they just left it alone and let this one be the first episode.
Well, you skipped over a very extremely important part of it. Was with Gerard and his boss sitting in the office, circling where he could be.
Yeah. And
he said, because that's the first instinct that that Gerard doesn't think this guy did it.
Yeah, I caught me by surprise too. I was not expecting. I thought he was going to be a breathing fire type of guy forever. Mm-hmm.
No, that was the first steps, and even his boss said, "You don't think this man did it?" And he goes, "No, the law said he did it."
Right.
And I thought that was such a cool scene.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, that's really what makes him such a good character. But I was surprised even rewatching this because I started this not too long ago, but I had forgotten how early he thought. Because later on he starts to have some doubts,
Yeah.
But he's still going to catch him. Because that's the law.
That's the law.
Because he's Gerard. But I was surprised that he sort of acknowledged that in the first episode. Even
the first episode, he's he's telling his boss that I have my doubts. I'll catch him, but I have my doubts about it. Yeah.
And even the cigarette scene with the two cops that brings. Jim Lincoln, as he's called in this episode, back to his hotel where he goes, smoke, and Kimball goes, oh no. And then as they start talking, he starts to you could see him getting more and more nervous as the scene wrapped up, and he he pulled out his own cigarettes, and I was like, that was really a cool scene too.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know what it is? I think when you watch The Fugitive, like now today, just think about it. I mean, try to be a fugitive today of a murder. I mean, you still can do it, you still can get away with it, but the window is a lot smaller now. More often than not, you're going to get caught.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go down from town to town to town. I mean, it's just, it would be very hard to try to put that, into play.
Yeah, you'd have to really almost just go like kind of be homeless and hope that you can just go to a place where you can get away with that. But as far as like, I'm going to go to this town and get this job and do this for 6 months, and it'll be so hard now. Even like, if you ever see any like shows or true crime, people that like left their families and changed their identities, like back in the 70s, sometimes they got away with it for decades, but then they started digitizing everything.
Yeah.
And something would give them away and they would get caught. Yeah. But that was a great scene with Gerard, because you see them on the other side of the map, the clear map, and he's kind of got like the general location that he knows he's in, but really good. This episode did a really good job of sort of establishing what Gerard's about with very little screen time comparatively. And also with Kimball's about. Eventually, as far as the episode goes, I think after Brian Keith gets rebuffed by the cops a little bit, he obviously goes off the deep end, because at one time he comes into Kimball's apartment, takes out a gun and shows it to him.
I thought he was going to try to frame him, like have him grab the gun.
Yeah.
And then I was waiting for him to bring out the handkerchief or something, like, okay, he's going to try to set him up for another shooting or something like that. And like, why would you give him the gun other than incriminate him? But then he took it himself, and you gotta give Kimball credit. I mean, he did try to tell the guy to, like, listen, I'm not here to butt heads with you.
Yeah.
You need help. You need psychiatric help. I can help you.
Right.
He did try. He reached out and he's like, I'm not the usual guy you're running across here because I thought there was going to be another scene where this young guy at the end of the bar came in. It was like a young guy. I was waiting for him to come in there and start a little something so that him and Brian Keith will square off again, but they didn't. It didn't happen that way. Yeah. And and then also we see Kimball too. He's also very lonely, and I know throughout the series they had Kimball falling in love, and I'm like, I don't think he was falling so much in love, was the fact that he was just goddamn lonely.
Yeah.
I don't, you just don't see a man like that who was in love with his wife. You just don't see him just dropping off the planet. That's going to be put aside for the first pretty girl I see. Yeah, I just think he's horrendously lonely.
Yeah, and he explained it. He told her what happened pretty much with the one-armed man and everything, and which was a great way for the viewers to learn the whole backstory.
Yeah.
But he's basically just lonely, and that would happen throughout the series. Pretty much, he would have to confide in people and grow attached to them, and then only to have to, of course, leave at the end of the episode. But yeah, when he whipped that gun out, I was like, oh, don't touch that gun. He's kind of like waving it around too. It's like, I was like, do not take the gun out of his hand. But and then eventually, of course, they try to leave town. He follows them to the train station. They just take the first train anywhere, and Keith is really at his wit's end, because he grabs the clerk and gives him a good shaking. So the guy tells him exactly where they are. And they had established, were there two like MPs in there in the train station?
That's what I was just going to ask you. I didn't know if they were MPs or if they were like luggage, like people that would luggage or something.
They're MPs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. If
they were there when he got to town.
Yeah, they were. They did show them. You always see that traveling soldiers or sailors in airports and bus stations and everything. But they were the ones that actually, when Keith pulled out the gun, they were the ones that shot him, right? I think.
One shot too. Good
Yeah.
shooting.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, like
But
wow, no last. That's Richard Kimball.
right.
No,
Right, yeah, exactly right.
they just put his. The only thing missing from that was a pillow.
Right. Pretty much. Yeah, because they kind of foreshadowed a little bit what happens in a lot of the episodes, because there's future episodes where people figure out like exactly who he is, because he crosses paths with other criminals.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly who he is, whereas the Brian Keith character was kind of like following along with where the cops were going, like, you don't pack real heavy. He was starting to have his suspicions about him, but he wasn't like, hey, I think you're a murderer. That would come later in the series, but it kind of showed you, the viewer, hey, this guy, there's some cracks in this guy's, if people get too close and start asking questions, this, apart from also leaving your hair dye out for people to find,
Right.
This is a very tenuous situation here.
I also thought it was really cool in the police when Brian Keith leaves and stuff, and they're talking, and Kimball's wanted picture is like right in the back. Right in the back of him, and he's like, "Yeah, what did he say? We don't skip the details or something like that."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Hey, stupid! The wanted poster's like right behind you. Turn around."
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that was so really like a very solid first episode. I just watched it within less than a year ago. Probably about 6 months ago, really, and I had a great time watching it again this morning, and really like it made me think about some whole, little tiny. There were some little things I missed, and it really made me think about like this scenario that he's in, how difficult it is. Man, I really got to finish this series. I got to tell you, I really do.
No. It's something else. It's something else that like when you came to me a couple of months ago and say, hey, let's just talk about The Fugitive, and I got excited about it too, because right before we went on, we're talking about how a lot of people don't cover shows like this. We all cover movies. We all talk about movies, but it's very rare that anybody really ever talks about TV. TV movies or TV series or what have you. I mean, other than maybe Anthony from Cinema Squad, who covers the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But that's about it. As far as covering a series from start to finish. I think he's I think he's the only one that does it.
Yeah. Anthony came on my channel right before Christmas, and we did a deep dive into a Night Gallery episode. They're tearing down Tim Riley's bar, which is, it's not really directly a Christmas themed episode, but it's like kind of a feel good kind of an episode, sort of. It's the most, the Night Gallery episode is probably the most like the Twilight Zone. So I had him come on. We had a great time. He's a great guy to talk TV with.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. It's like there's one series I've always wanted to get, and I was going to pull the trigger on it. It's one of my very favorites of all time, but I heard that the print is just garbage, and I've been watching people do their TV series collections, and I don't know who they are. I just watch them, and a couple of them have had this series as well, and they pulled it out, and the first thing they say is this is a good series, but it's just like a really shitty print copy of it. It's like they just ripped it, and that was the Outer Limits, the remake. Man.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. We're both big fans of that remake, Patrick. Yeah.
I would do that. I would do that from start to finish.
Yeah.
But each one, I just heard that it needs a total.
Yeah.
It needs totally cleaned up.
Total overhaul, and of course, they had the two versions of it. The Showtime version had a little extra, sex and nudity, maybe violence. I don't know, but yeah. They were really good episodes, and so some of the special effects were a little quaint. So what? They had a budget, but good show, man. Yeah, that was really good. And Jason from Horrific Nightmares is here.
Hey, Jason.
We got to talk about Quinn Martin. The guy behind the scenes of who produces. I mean, Quinn Martin, man, he never gets any love at all.
You don't hear like yeah. Yeah, you hear like Aaron Spelling's name all the time, but you're right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we never hear Quinn Martin. I mean, he was a visionary, and his shows were always really good. You had the Streets of San Francisco. One of the shows I remember the first watching as a kid was watching the FBI. Let's see. Then you had Barnaby Jones. You had Cannon. There was just so many shows that he come on, and they always ran the same. Always had a voiceover. Always had the guest stars. The title of it broken into 4 acts and the epilogue, just like Fugitive did. He did a lot for American TV, a lot, and I don't think he gets the credit.
I love the way there's something about it. I don't know why, but I love the way they break the episodes into the acts, and then have the epilogue. It's like I look forward to each act.
And I think I
look forward to the guest stars. To the guest stars. It's like, and they made such a big production. It came across more like a little movie than it did come across as a TV series.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, there were probably dozens of, B movies back then that had some kind of a crime theme or something that weren't half as good as your average episode of The Fugitive for sure.
Roy Huggins, who created the show, he tried to get it sold, but he had difficulty at first. Roy Huggins ended up doing a lot of great shows as well. The one I remember more, I know he's did a lot, but when I heard that Roy Huggins, the only thing I could think of was he did a show in the 90s or maybe the late 80s called Hunter with Fred Dreyer.
Oh, okay.
Or a football player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was supposed to be like a Dirty Harry type. That's what he was.
Yeah. A TV version.
He couldn't go quite. He couldn't go quite Dirty Harry. And he had a little catchphrase. It works for me.
Oh, okay.
So he made sure that was in every episode. It's like, okay, he got a catchphrase, and it was a fun show. But but this is definitely a thinking man's crime drama cop show.
Yes.
This is not. You're looking for action and shootouts and all. Keep going because it ain't here.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
He had to use his brain to get out of his predicament, which I really respected that Andrew Davis kept that when he did the movie.
Yes. I really thought
he kept Harrison Ford thinking and not necessarily swinging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really, when you think about when it was made, and even Davis's background, I mean, he started out with like Chuck Norris. I mean, so
right.
That was. I'm glad they didn't succumb to making that. Like, I hate to say it, but if they would make it today, it would be like a vehicle for whatever action star they would put in, and you would lose a lot of that nuance. But you're right. It's been really cool for me. And again, I think I'm on like season 4 to see how much it inspired the film and in what ways, it really, the film had a really good basis to create a movie out of, and they made most of the right choices, I think, for sure. Yeah. So what do you guys?
Go ahead.
Go. I was just gonna. You guys can go anyway. Bring up anything you want, but I also just wanted to touch on David Janssen's whole sort of legacy at the end of the episode here.
Go ahead.
Well, for me, like, I know, first of all, he was like early 30s in this. I would tell you, wow. Yeah, because he passed away, what, 50, 51? 48. Oh, man. 48. That's a shame. Even though these guys have been gone for a long time, when I read stuff like that, man, it just kills me, like, just what a shame. But, what a dependable guy overall. I know him from, I know he did a lot of made-for-TV movies. I recently just watched Moon of the Wolf. One of those 70s movies. It's got Bradford Dillman because it's in the 70s, so you have to have. Right. He's got to be in it. Him or who's the other guy? I forget, but it might come to me.
There's another guy that was always in like a movie or a TV show. Remember Mason Adams?
Oh
No, I don't think so.
He was an older guy. He did the Welsh's commercials in the '80s, Dan, for us. But it was like everything I seen. I used because he used to pop up on just like he was on Little House, or he was like like Jessica Fletcher's like friend from like high school or something back, on Murder She Wrote. He was on like I think I counted one time we watched it. He was like on 6 different shows. Like he was on an episode of Fantasy Island.
Who wasn't?
Right.
Yeah. When you look him up after you're done, Dan,
okay,
you'll just laugh and go, "Oh, okay, I know who he is."
It's going to be like one of those, "Oh, it's that guy" moments. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I have a book called "Oh, It's That Guy." It's about.
I know. I was looking to get that book because I had picked up that TV noir book when you showed it.
Yeah, but like the moon, it's such a quaint little movie. The werewolf effects are good enough, they're not the best ever. It's not American Werewolf in London, but it's not going to be like that,
Right.
And having him in one of those, it's just such a comforting thing, it makes it so much better, and apart from that and this and a few other things, I haven't, looking him up, there's tons of stuff of his that I haven't seen, but
I think he was in Black Sunday, wasn't he? Or Warning. I picked up a movie with him. Just Warning Shot.
I think it was 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning. That's it.
Okay.
I knew it was a football movie about the Super Bowl, but I couldn't. I didn't know because they did a couple of them at that time. They did 2-minute warning. I think they did Black Sunday, which there was like a sort of. It was a Van Damme did a good version of that in the '90s called Sudden Death.
Yeah, Sudden Death. Patrick, you reviewed that. Yeah. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he was also in wait, is this 2-minute warning? Is another name for that Superdome? Is it about the Super Bowl?
Yes. That's what I said. I think because it kind of Sudden Death kind of done it, but with a hockey game, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Because I actually have that. I watched that. It was pretty good. I mean, it was, it's of its time,
Yeah, it's not going to save the world or anything like that, right. But, but it's a good, 2-hour movie to pop on.
Mm-hmm.
David Janssen was 49 when he passed away.
49.
Yeah, man.
But his lifestyle was really, he was, he was part of the, that lifestyle back then. A lot of the actors were into drinking heavy smokers. Yeah. I think that's what killed him was a heart attack.
Yeah, I read that today, but that's a shame. And then I also
Brian Keith. I think he got his daughter died. And then I think he got cancer. He got cancer and he committed suicide.
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I hate reading stuff like that. And even, I'm watching Rawhide. I'm watching a guy who got Eric Fleming, Gil Favor, the guy who, drowned when he was like 40.
Right.
I'm like way older than that now. It just kills me to read stuff like that, what a shame. Scouting a TV show.
I remember watching the Green Berets, and David Janssen was in that one. He played Robin Moore, who wrote the book. He basically played the character of Robin Moore, and then at the end it showed Jim Hutton's character dying, and then they find out that he had started another detective show called Ellery Queen, and he died right in the middle of that.
Janssen or Hutton?
Hutton.
Yeah, he died young, right? Yeah,
he died really young.
Yeah, because I think he was. I know him from the TV movie, the original "Don't Be Afraid of the Dark," one of my favorite of all time TV movies. Sarah is here, so hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Saying hey. And I also saw. I got a kick out of this. I was looking up his IMDb and everything. Janssen was in a movie called Fer de Lance, which is a type of poisonous snake.
Right, it was on a submarine. I saw that.
Submarine. Snakes on a submarine. I swear to God, TV movies. But I guarantee you that these TV movies are mined for ideas by these screenwriters, and they take these ideas and they don't give them any credit. They don't say anything because there's so many of them. And there's a lot of them that are pretty good and pretty imaginative, But
Oh my God, made for TV movies were the best.
Yeah.
They used to come out there. They used to come out. The ones that were really tough were the ones that were only 75 minutes long or 90 minutes. Sometimes ABC was really good for this. They on Friday nights they run double features. It would start at 8, and then another one would start at 9:30, and they would do back to back, double feature for TV, made for TV movies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't know. I always wonder why those never really hit the DVD market like they really never did.
Yeah,
probably licensing.
Very few of them. Yeah.
Yeah, very few. That's why when I see them, when I saw, like when they put Killdozer out there on
oh yeah, I got it.
Like, why are they charging like $40 for a made-for-TV movie? Oh, because there's not that many of them out there. That's why.
Yeah, but if they had more, I mean, I wish like Kino or something would put like 2 or 3 of them in a compilation. Now there's an Instagrammer. It's called Made for TV Mayhem. Her name is Amanda Reyes. She's written a book she edited a book about TV movies. For this year, every day she's featuring a made for TV movie that's never had a physical release. So she knows ahead of time there's that many. And I'll tell you, I've watched probably about 5 or 6 of the ones that she's mentioned, and some of them have been darn good. I watched one the other night called The Dead Don't Die with Ray Milland. It's essentially a zombie movie, but like an old school zombie movie, like voodoo zombies.
They remade that.
Did they?
Yeah, with Bill Murray and Adam Brody or
Adam Driver.
Yeah, Adam Driver. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
They remade that.
Huh. But and the thing is, like, as far as the physical release goes, sometimes when these movies that had scenes at night, the quality you're watching on YouTube, it's not, it's hard sometimes. That's why they need to be cleaned up a little bit. They don't have to be 4K. Just clean them up. Kino Lorber or somebody, so we can see them. The job they did on like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark was good. Duel, that I have the DVD of Duel. I don't feel like I need to upgrade. It's good enough for me, But
Duel is amazing.
But
amazing. The good thing for you, Dan, is they did a lot of back in the 70s. It was very popular were Yetis and Squatch movies. They were very popular. Yeah.
Snow Beast. That Snow Beast is on so many compilations. The one with Bo Hopkins or Bo Svensson. Which one of those guys? And Sylvia Sidney. The older woman from Beetlejuice. Right. Yeah, that is on. So I think I have that 3 times over. And then you had like Scream of the Wolf with Clint Walker and Peter Graves. That's a good one.
I think they remade that. I think they retitled that like 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah, that's what they do. And then they retitle
the Grizzly or something like that, or something. Then they remake it or retitle it Night of the Grizzly with Clint Walker.
Well, that is a separate movie. Night of the Grizzly is a separate movie. Yeah, because I got that and I finally watched it. I thought it was going to fit into sort of like the Animal Attack movies of the 70s. Right. It doesn't really have. There's a grizzly on the loose. It doesn't have that feel though. It almost feels like a Disney movie, even though it's not a Disney movie. But it's rated G, but it's got these scenes of horses after they've been mauled by a grizzly. It's
okay.
Blood everywhere. So I'm like, how the heck was this rated G? Even though the rest of it's, there's a few fist fights and things like that, but it's actually a pretty decent movie.
Well, remember they had after school specials too on ABC that at 4:00, and it was just like, what was the one with Linda Blair where she goes to she gets violated by girls, because that it's on at 4:00.
She was the queen of those for a while. Sarah T. Alcoholic or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was. But I remember the one where because I seen it on Tubi, not a sponsor, should be.
I reviewed it on my channel a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like I just remember like her. What was it? Her dad died, and her mom was an alcoholic or something. So the mom just like left her to her own, and she was like a straight A student or something like that. And let me look because that's going to be bothering me now.
Yeah. Well, the one where she goes to the juvenile home and gets violated, that actually led to the creation of the family viewing hour.
Oh, okay.
They made like a guarantee that, like, hey, if you watch TV between such and such time with your kids, you're not going to see stuff like that. Because that was pretty well, yeah. She was in a bunch of those, and then as far as the after school specials, Scott Baio was in a bunch of those too.
I
Born
remember the one.
Innocent.
Born Innocent. That's right.
Born Innocent.
Remember the one with Dennis Weaver? He did two of them. I think one he did where he was an alcoholic, where he turned to be a wife beater, and people were so upset at that because he played
TV's McCloud.
Yeah, he went so against type in that, and people were so upset that they're seeing that on TV. That movie got a lot of complaints from and this is when networks actually read letters. Like if you wrote a letter to a network, your ass was getting read. They were
Except
reading
on Captain Noah. He did not get my my art. Because in Philly, they used to have a kids show. Send your pictures to dear old Captain Noah. Me and my brother, like I'm not kidding you, a month, we get mom to send them in. And we'd watch it, and mom's like, boys, did they read your? And we're like, and my brother finally said, I don't think Captain Noah's getting mail, Mom, because he hasn't got any of our pictures.
Yeah, but back there in the 70s, I mean, they got and the ratings. The Fugitive, the last episode, for such a long time, it was the number one watched non-sport TV show ever watched. It was
up until wasn't it the last episode of MASH?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And even now, I didn't know this. I thought it was still. I didn't know where it was now, but it's still 3. It's still the third most watched non-sport show ever, behind the last episode of all things. Was because I never understood. I didn't think it was all that, but it was Cheers. The last episode of Cheers.
Cheers was huge, Patrick.
Oh,
it went, but Cheers and MASH, they did go on for a while though.
That was great. Yeah. I watched MASH. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit that I broke down too watching Sydney and Hawkeye.
Yeah,
that was heartbreaking.
That was well, that was crazy too. That Mike Farrell comes in. I don't even know what season, becomes such a major character, and then his goodbye is the scene that is so impactful at the end. And
it's funny. It's when Harry Morgan came onto the show that made MASH a classic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of TV guys, I mean, how many TV shows was that guy on? So that was like an insurance policy or something, like having him come on. Yeah. They have now at the gym, they have they have 2 episodes of Dragnet, 5 and 5:30. Oh, so okay. One of these days, because tomorrow is supposed to be my rest day, but I'm going to go in and just get on the treadmill. I got to find one of those headphones that fit into the jack on the treadmill, because I think you can actually, they got numbers in the TVs. I think you can,
neat. Okay.
Can actually listen to an episode, So that could be my routine, from like once a week.
Let's see. What year did the Fugitive run from? Was 63? It ended in 67. So it ended in 67, the same year that Jack Webb brought back Dragnet.
Yeah, 63 to 67.
Yeah, and then
120 episodes, Dan, you got to look forward to.
Yeah. And they brought back Dragnet the same year, and it ran for 100 episodes. 99 plus a pilot movie. Yeah. That was another. You go back and you watch this, and people were like, I was reading about how people were watching the Fugitive, and for the last episode, they said that in Ireland, of all places, there's nobody on the street. Everybody was inside the house watching the show.
Yeah, that is wild.
They shut down almost an entire country, so they could watch the last episode of this series.
Yeah,
I just think that the cultural impact of it has gotten lost. On unless like we like most people, you mentioned the Fugitive, and they mentioned Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, I was talking about the one with David Janssen and Barry Morris. And and of course, you can't help but every time you hear about someone missing Los Miserables, the first thing you think of is a fugitive. You think, oh, that's how it was. But then once you start watching the fugitive, then you realize that their Javert and our Javert were completely different. Huggins created him more as a sympathetic, more of a justice-loving cop than a visual one.
Yeah, the one that I saw, the one with Gerard Depardieu and
Was it Russell Crowe? Was it Russell Crowe?
It wasn't Russell Crowe. It was this was a long time ago. Oh man, Jeffrey Rush.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because he finally says to him, he's like, I'm not trying to beat you. I'm not against you. I just want to get on with my life. You're obsessed with me. Like, because Jeffrey Rush, he just cannot drop it. Yeah, that's intense. That's an intense one. I'm not really too familiar with too many other versions, but that's a good one.
I think Hugh Jackman did one with Hugh Jackman did a version as well.
Yeah.
Not Russell Crowe, but I think Hugh Jackman did a version of
I found this also interesting, Dan. I think you'll like this. The exterior of the Kimball home is the same house as Leave It to Beaver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I'll have to look for that when they have those episodes. I didn't catch that. Now, a lot of times I'll go back and watch episodes of like Kraft Suspense Theater, and also you'll see the Bewitched house and even the Munsters house.
Yeah.
Obviously completely looking different, but the Bewitched house says that the door with that window, is very, very distinct. But I do get a kick out of seeing stuff like that.
Man, have you either one of you been to the Universal tour?
No.
Universal Studios. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. And once you go, then all of a sudden you start looking for all the Universal TV shows. You start looking, and then you start looking for the studio. Like Murder She Wrote. They filmed it at the Universal Studio. And you start noticing it. Adam 12 and The Emergency were really obvious when they're on a set.
Right.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of TV shows that as soon as you see it, you know what you're looking at.
But see, back then, especially, I can't speak for Dan. I didn't look for what studio did the show. Like I knew like Paramount did like Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah.
Because they would have the Paramount logo after the show.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Days and but that's interesting, Pat. I wouldn't have known that those shows because I loved Adam 12 and I liked Emergency too as a kid, but I would have never knew that was a Universal show.
Remember the end of Mary Tyler Moore married her husband Grant Tinker, and they
MTM, yeah,
right, and at the end of it they always had a kitty.
Yeah,
that was the first time I ever paid attention to the ending of a show. It was like the first time, and then it would have a cat and it would meow. I was
for our generation, me and Dan, the big one was the end of Family Ties.
Oh yeah, Sit Ubu Sit.
Yeah, Sipu, good doggy.
Yeah. Sit Ubu Sit.
Yeah. and then another one was Taxi. Good night, Mr.
Oh yeah, Charles.
Yeah. You like walking up the hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that's what I think they should have done with Quinn Martin. They should have had, because looking around trying to find any sort of publicity for Quinn Martin, man, it's hard.
Nah.
It's very much out there. Like I would have to go and look, I think, to find who he was, because all I knew is that was it Quinn Martin? Was there two people? Was it Quinn and Martin?
Yeah, right.
It's a QM production, like Q and who,
Mm-hmm.
I think if a show, and they don't make shows like they used to anymore, because I don't think they just have the time. They'll just throw up another CSI, like CSI Philly or something like that. They'll just put up another show like that. But I miss the intelligence, like so many that we just brought up in that one episode of The Fugitive. Like I don't think they take the care anymore on these TV shows like they used to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were talking about before, they were popping like 40, 39 episodes a year of these things out, and just the quality of them. And now you get like 12 episodes of like, say, like Happy's Place with Reba. You know, it's just like it's not the same thing. You know,
no, it's not. It's
Could
not.
you imagine they did a CSI Squatch? Dude, they'd be set in Montana.
Well, being harsh, but the first couple first couple seasons, like I'd say the first 5 of CSI, they came out with like different stories. Especially when they had the playground in Vegas to play with and stuff like that.
Such an inventive show.
Huh?
Such an inventive show. I was with that show from the beginning to the end. I was fascinated with it from day one to the end.
So was I. And I thought Grissom's character was very well written. I like the character because a lot of these guys, like you'll have, especially the first couple seasons of ER, you know, where you had all diverse, like sort of like how I think they did it like sort of like how MASH had like all different kinds of, you had the career person, you had the the playboy, you had the jokester, on these shows, and you just like they just were well meshed, and everybody had a background. I don't think that they care about the characters anymore, and they just like throw them out there. And plus the acting shit anyway, because half of these guys are like pretty boys that couldn't read the back of a menu.
Yeah, like we were saying with the ages. I mean, they had so many character actors back in the day. It's like they were rough looking guys, and you could barely tell. You didn't really know how old they were, but they were like so versatile and good. Yeah, I agree. As far as network goes, as far as there are individual shows out there that are still good. I thought I don't know if you guys saw Mr. In Between from Australia. Man, that was a great show.
I got the first season of that.
3 seasons. Good.
I saw that based on clips on YouTube. So I got that at the library. It was there. And the other one I'm looking for, and I'm really looking for this one too, and I really wanted to get Banshee. Banshee is fucking.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, I think my brother watches that, but I'd definitely be interested in something like that.
I seen clips of that, and it's like it's insane. I'm like, I want that to come through the library. That's a great show. And of course, Kenny was mentioning some of the other English shows. Man, I dropped the ball when they had Midsummer Murders, and someone had left a brand new brick of it. It was like I think it's run like 26 seasons at the time, and someone had left like the first 12 seasons brand new, but they wanted the library wanted $30 for it.
Whoa.
I was like, well, for 30 seasons. I mean, for 30 seasons or 14, 15 seasons, I was like, that was actually pretty good. But I passed on it. I went back the next day to go get it. I'm like, oh, I should have got that. I go back to the next day, it was gone. It was gone. Russell saying CSI was a great show. And Grissom was in the Manhunter movie. He was. He definitely was.
Yep. And Jim just stopped by saying hello to everybody. What's up, Jim?
Hey, Jim.
Are you late? That's all right, Jim. You can catch the replay if you feel like it. Not sure. Jim, I'm sure that you're. I don't know. Maybe you're a fan. I'm sure.
I was going to ask Jim that. We got him here, and he's doing his movie tour. Maybe we can get him to do his TV show tour.
Oh, yeah. If he had,
I would love to see that. If you don't mind, Professor. Hey, Professor. Professor also has a lot of TV shows. But I was wondering if Jim, because I was thinking about that, going like, I wonder if Jim would do TV shows. If we asked him nicely, I bet he would.
Yep.
I'd love to see what he has.
Yeah, definitely. What's up, Professor? And all of my TV shows are in boxes with my DVDs, but I'm going to do a video in the future. There you go. Awesome. Yeah. He's getting organized. His shelves look nice and clean, unlike mine, which are all cluttered.
Yeah.
But
I can't even. I see that. I just hang my head in shame and collecting shame. Like, I have all these movies, but I can't do anything about it because I have no room for them.
yeah, well, I just shot it. I just made a video and for Top 3 Thursday, and I didn't have a movie, and it irritated me, and then I found it. So I just did. It was only 2 minutes long. I just did the whole thing over, but because I hate that when I have to say in the video, I have this somewhere, but I can't find it now. It just drives. I don't like.
It's irritating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so irritating. But anyway, you guys want to talk real quick about what's coming up on your channels? I know Kenny, you got something tomorrow night. Speaking of Jim,
yeah. Talking movies with Sean, me, and Jim. We'll be honoring Val Kilmer tomorrow night. We'll be taking a deep dive into his movies, and that one, I'll go into this more tomorrow. That one hit me like John Candy did for me, because I remember when we went to see Top Gun, and that summer '86, man, that was just like. And I remember going in one of my friends' at vocational school, we made friends with like different shops and stuff. So I went to Stephanie and I'm like, I want this. And I showed her the wet, spiky look that everybody was getting back after Top Gun.
Okay.
And I was like, Steph, I want this. So she got it, and I came home, and my mom was like, what the hell did you do to your hair? And I was like, because for all the years I had it like right down the middle, like in wings, for all those years. And it was like, yeah, summer '86, man, changed my life. And I thought he was only in that movie for 15 minutes. You believe that, Top Gun? 15
yeah, that's
minutes.
crazy, right? Yeah.
And he made such an impact with just that. I mean, 15 minutes. So it doesn't.
Iconic character. Yeah.
It doesn't take long to be in a movie to make a lifelong lasting moment. Yeah. So we'll be talking about Val Kilmer tomorrow night.
I'm really looking forward to that. Definitely. And Professor says he loves collecting. Professor Macabro says he likes collecting TV shows because all the special features. Yeah, when you get a good edition and has special features and stuff, it is pretty interesting. Even on Rawhide, they have the little things where it's like a little preview, and it's like, I'm Clint Eastwood. Here's what's happening next week on Rawhide. I just get such a kick out of that stuff, Yeah.
They do a really nice job with they do actually do a really nice job with of all shows Vegas. They had the bumpers. They had the bumpers for every one of those, for every one of Vegas.
Oh, cool.
From Vegas, Dan has to start from old friends from killing Roth. Okay, and then they show the clip of, then they clip, they show the preview of the episode, and then we go into the episode. It was pretty cool.
That's definitely cool.
Trying to find TV shows, and that's rough. That's hard. It's hard to do because you try to find the ones that you actually feel like you have a legitimate chance of getting. It just seems like, it used to be, I don't know how you guys collected, but for a while there, when you go inside of a thrift store or whatnot, whatever recent TV show was really popular was always used to be at the thrift stores. People would tune up, they would just turn them in. Like I would see so many boxes of so many recently popular series, but man, oh man, it's you don't see them very often anymore like you used to. Like I see all the time. And so now it's like, there wasn't a single week that I didn't walk inside the library for over a year that someone hadn't turned in a Buffy.
Right.
Now, couldn't do it to save my life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Yeah. Yeah. And Patrick, one interview that I definitely got to get caught up on is you had Kelly Goody came back on your show, right? A while ago, like a month ago. Yeah. I was I'm a fan of hers, and I really liked the first interview you did with her. So I'm definitely going to get caught up on that one. But what else do you have coming up?
This week we have two shows. We have tomorrow night, we have a Grail guest. We have actor Robert Lasardo will be with us. That guy, speaking of being in everything, that's Robert Lasardo. Any independent action, horror, suspense. He's probably going to be in it. The guy is a machine. He's like an action hero, Eric Roberts. He does all these really cool movies. And he produced and directed and starred in this new movie called American Trash. I watched it. I think it's very gritty. Has a lot to say. I would say it's like a Tarantino vibe, except that Robert, he knows how to write. And then I have a women's writer, a women's children's books writer, A.D. Owens, is going to be on Wednesday. So I'm going to go from action hero and Charles Manson on one hand to a children's writer on the next day. I love my job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll have to try to check that one out and get some book ideas for my granddaughters.
Yeah, by all means. What's going on with you, Dan? I know you got something fun.
Well, I'm pretty much just, I got my martial arts Mondays, most Mondays. My physical media Fridays are kind of like every other Friday now. I'm probably going to have a few anti-hauls where I show the stuff that I'm cleaning out just for a change of pace coming up. And other than that, I do have the Yeti Squatch reviews / racing coming up. And then I even had another idea for a certain genre of movies that involves cars. So it would be like reviews and a little racing. So I'm still working on the details of that in my head. And I'm also waiting for the weather to get a little nicer too for some of that,
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I mean it's squatch weather out there, but not weather for us. It's too cold.
And Jim saying Tarantino is a great writer, and you know it. Well, I like him. He does borrow a lot of stuff. I will say that.
He borrows a lot of stuff.
But I like him. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Death Proof, and I know where he got some of the ideas from. But man, that's a good one. And Professor, what did Professor say?
Death Proof is actually that one's all right. I like the end of that one. I like the cast in that. I mean, come on, Zoe Bell. Okay, yeah, all right. Damn you, you got me with that one. And that's and the ending is so 70. Oh my God, this is so 1970, and I love that too. I love the ending.
That's the way the kung fu movies end.
Yeah, always with the bad guy.
Last karate chop and credits.
Yeah.
Professor, and one more question before we finish up here. The professor says, would you upgrade to Blu-ray to save on space and swap out the DVD, even if the DVD has a much better package and presentation? I personally would probably keep the DVD. And when it comes to like the Battlestar Galactica set I have, which is like a Cylon head, that's obviously like a very special one. But even like Kung Fu, this is good enough for me, the DVDs. Complete season of Kung Fu. So if they came out with Blu-ray for that one, I personally wouldn't upgrade for me.
I get a lot of comments about, well, you're just collecting DVDs and stuff. Well, first of all, I like the DVDs, and secondly, unless you got about $50 to give me, Vision Quest is not on Blu-ray. So if I can get Vision Quest for $1 on DVD and watch it and enjoy it, that's what I'm doing. And I like collectors like you guys, and Geriatric Geek that will watch the DVDs. It's the damn movie that matters. It's not all the frillies. I want to throw stuff at my beautiful TV when I see these people. I won't pick it up because it doesn't have a slip cover. It's about the movies, folks. It's not about the slip cover.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
it just drives me crazy. And it's like, if I'm like with the thrift store stuff that I just picked up, those movies were $1.
I was going to ask you. Dan, what TV show are you going to cover next?
Well, I've been collecting all things Clint Eastwood, so I really want to start from like the beginning of his career and start reviewing his movies, and somewhere in there talk about Rawhide to a degree. I think there's over 200 of those. So I'm not going to be doing every episode.
Come on, Dan. We'll see you in 2054 and
right.
on season 21.
Yeah. But so I'll touch on a little Rawhide, maybe some one-off videos about some of the better Rawhide episodes, some of the better Rifleman episodes. There's and to tie it in with my channel and everything, you had people like Claude Rains on Rawhide, the Invisible Man. That's a good episode. Lon Chaney is on Rawhide 2 times, and they're both very solid episodes. And it's as close to a really good swan song as far as his acting goes as he got. It's a better swan song than he ever got in any movie. I mean, he was in a few decent movies when he was older, but because of his alcoholism and everything, he never, they were smaller parts, and he would jump in any kind of a B horror movie. But these 2 roles are really good, and he's got in both of the episodes, he plays a similar character, and he has a kind of a speech at the end. It's pretty emotional stuff. So I might talk about some stuff like that, some of the guest stars and things like that.
That's a good idea. I'm glad you went ahead and went on with this.
Yeah,
with the TV thing. I think that's really cool. I mean, I did a couple of TV things that I got off of Tubi. I covered one series, and actually I was covering 2, and then the second one I have to go back to it. But one I did complete, A Man Called Hawk. But yeah, it takes some dedication to go ahead and get there and sink your teeth into a TV series and take it to the end. So I admire you that you're hopefully, because I know I want to talk more TV. So
yeah. Okay, cool. And Jim's mentioning maybe doing an episode of Deadwood at some point. Yeah, I did watch about. I'm probably going to say about half of that. I know I didn't finish, but I did like it. Yeah, but okay. This was very cool, guys. Just to wrap it up, I think we got some creative juices flowing here. It was definitely something a little different, and we'll have to do something like this again in the future. Absolutely. For sure. Yeah. But thanks a lot. I really appreciate you guys coming on with me to talk to Fugitive. And any final words or anything?
No, I hope everybody goes out and it's on Pluto seasons 3 through 5. On Pluto.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Sometimes they have just select seasons, so it can be maddening. But
check YouTube, guys, because YouTube, if you look hard enough, you'll find the stuff that you're looking for on YouTube.
I know that there's some Fugitive episodes out on YouTube.
Yeah, some like the Rifleman, they've pretty much got all of them, and they've got them packaged up in seasons. So if you wanted to go in order, which you don't really have to, but if you wanted to, it's pretty easy. But that's kind of a show by show basis sometimes. But all right, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and end it, guys. But I appreciate everyone coming out, and I will make sure you guys tune in tomorrow night on the Talking Movies channel for a Val Kilmer tribute. And I'll be talking to you guys real soon. Let me end the stream here.
Bye, everybody. Night, Jim.
All right.
Good night, everybody.